and the sun is guaranteeing us that we are. So it's probably okay. I don't see any light of the camera, by the way, so I'm really suspicious that we are. But you're using that one. Anyway, Japanese. We're talking about collectivism versus individualism, and we saw a lot of examples about the collective nature of Japan, the education system, how kids were taught how to behave in a group setting, how to contribute to society, and how to be one with them, and how to basically, actually create a position within the group. The group was put in the center, made central. And when you compare this to Western society, we see that actually is a completely different attitude. We heard the surprise of a Canadian resident in Japan who was talking about his experiences, that he was so surprised that he saw kids, for example, lining up next to the bus after being dropped off and thanking the bus driver, about Japanese people who were helping the people from the bus company to unload their package. It's something that is very foreign to a lot of Westerners, because they have a culture of I, and I means that you put your own interest first. Your entire thinking, everything starts with I. Now that has a very big impact on how you see the world, and how you behave. The I makes it makes people put their own interest before others, and that has a tendency that could very easily lead to basically antisocial behavior. If we look at the I theory, and we look at, for example, economics, in economics, that I culture is completely being promoted as a general idea. Understanding of our economic theory is of like a economic rational behavior is to put yourself first, to always, if you have the chance, take the most. Greed is good. The movie Wall Street, that's basically based on our economic theory, and then because we are greedy, that leads to superior economic outcome. But this is just a model, and if we look at the reality, then we see that outside of economics, we have been studying human behavior, and we see that in reality, people are not as greedy as our economic theory makes us believe. In psychology, a lot of studies point to the fact that actually people show a lot of altruistic behavior. And why do people show altruistic behavior? It's because basically they feel good doing good. If we look at the richest people in the world, if we look at Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey Brin, if we look at what's his name, Bill Gates, they spent more than $2 billion last year in just handing out money to good causes. That's purely altruistic behavior. Warren Buffett has already spent more than $40 billion over his lifetime in handing out money, giving money to good causes. So there must be something in us that actually makes us want to contribute to society, wants us to be part of that society, wants us to feel, that makes us feel good about ourselves. So even in an individualistic society, if done in moderation, we can see that we have some collectivist tendencies, but it's optional. It's not mandatory. And if we look at it in the States, for example, the system in the States is completely based on opportunities. And opportunities means the individual first, because the individual can thrive. The individual needs to overcome, win the market. Once we start to control collectivism, that leads to dangerous situations. Socialism, as we saw in the Soviet Union, is something that we cannot do. So, of course, when looking at collectivism, when looking at individualism, those are polarizations of a general idea. But the general understanding of I am the center of the universe, or my group, my family is the center of the universe, or my company is the center of the universe, my country is the center of the universe, and I need to make contributions, that creates a completely different society. I feel that there are benefits of living in both societies. That's my personal observation. Having grown up in the Netherlands, I really appreciate the fact that we are so free, because we have the freedom to do basically whatever. I think actually the freedom to do whatever we want to do takes priority over the fact that we shouldn't cause any burden to others. This leads to freedom. This leads us to express whatever we want to express, to do whatever we want to do, within certain boundaries, because there are legal boundaries and there are social boundaries, of course. But there's a lot of freedom. Whereas in Japan, I feel that the society in itself is much more is much warmer to a certain warmer to a certain
peaceful,
extent. Peaceful, but also much more stressful than our society. Our meaning Western society is much more stressful because there are a lot of especially unwritten rules within the Japanese society, which makes being a part of this society kind of difficult. So as basically a gaijin, I have the benefits of living in a collectivist society where people really look after each other, where people take care of each other, where people are more concerned about not causing trouble to others than about fulfilling their own happiness, without actually having the obligation to do the same thing. Because I'm not expected to know the rules and not expected to be part of this system. So I can enjoy the system without actually having to pay. Like you, Japanese people, have to pay for this system. So the notion of collectivism and individualism seems to be a rather obscure and small one. But I think that the consequences of basically the way how you see the world completely shapes the world. So it's a very, very, very big consequence. I think Ikinari Steak has raised. Hura-san is buying steak like crazy, but now I know why. I was wondering why he was eating like 450 grams of steak like every day, but it's nothing to do with he wants to eat it. He needs to support his stock.
Today is 300.
I'm sorry? Today is what?
300.
Okay.
You already had lunch? Yeah, I mean twice.
What do you mean twice?
No, I mean, how come only 300?
I'm going to take dinner tonight.
You normally don't do that.
450.
I couldn't
Carry that? No. 450 is
450,
1
no.
pound.
So,
Yeah, 1 pound.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's nice.
okay. So we looked at the way how this kind of like collectivist or individualist behavior pans out, and what it means for society. Now, we looked at the extremes, and Uno-san rightfully commented on that. So yeah, but this is extreme. It was extreme because I tried to make a point. So the video about the Japanese school kids was extreme in the sense that there will not be that many schools that are so good that they grow their own vegetables, and kids are so polite, and they are so diligent in cleaning their own classroom, etc. But it is kind of like it paints a very clear picture of what a collectivist society could look like. At the other end of the spectrum, there was an American footage of American school classes that were completely out of control, where everybody was an individual that didn't care about anybody else. They were just shouting, making noise, scolding the teacher, not caring about anything. And everybody was frustrated and was just expressing him or herself as they felt.
So this one?
they were entitled to do. Oh, these are good, man.
You read that?
Like it.
Oh yeah, those are so good. Well, I don't buy them because I will eat them immediately.
So, by the way, you were talking about the public school in the U.S. It's
Public school in the US.
Really, messy. So
It's very
it's
messy.
in every state the same.
Well, no, it actually really has to do. In the United States, it's very important which school you go to. So we talked about, we saw a video from a guy who was a teacher, had been a teacher for more than 20 years in New Jersey, in one of the yeah, well, it's not called, in the Netherlands we call it black schools, but it's not a black school. It's basically a school with underprivileged children. Underprivileged means poor. A lot of like single parent families, broken families with a lot of criminal problems with crime, problems with unemployment. So in these areas, they also need to provide these kids with education, but it's tough because basically education is one size fits all. So kids need to pass. If they don't pass, the school doesn't get any money. If the school doesn't get any money, they can't teach any children at all. But because they have to deal with children who basically have to raise themselves, because maybe one of the parents or two parents are in jail, or one parent is in jail and the other parent needs to take care of making money. So these kids, they more or less raise themselves. They don't have any moral or kind of figure that they can mold themselves to. So they just go to school, they live there, and then the teachers need to raise them, teach them, and it's just too much for many teachers, and they just can't do it. And they just pass their time. They just give them grades good enough so that they can go to the next grade. But the consequence is that all these children that they come out of school, they don't have a proper education. So they are very likely to fail in life. So that system will sustain itself. So if you see that the best predictor of how a child will end up in life is just look at where he or she grew up.